Andrew requested me on Patreon to review Alien vs. Predator, the big crossover movie between these two 20th Century Fox franchises. This was probably one of those films that was going to happen eventually, especially since there was already a comic book that put these franchises together, and both of the film series were dormant when this entered production, so it seemed like an ideal way to bring them back to theaters. The result I found to be surprisingly dull through most of it. The biggest problem comes with the people we follow and who wind up in the middle of this battle between aliens and predators. I found them largely lacking in personality, with most just sort of blending together. The only ones I thought were easily identifiable were the main character, the Italian one, the Scottish one, the tough lady one, and of course Lance Henriksen as the CEO of the Weyland Corporation. Because of my lack of interest in these people, I had a difficult time getting invested in the expedition. Paul W. S. Anderson appears to take a cue from Ridley Scott and James Cameron in creating a lot of build-up before the aliens and predators show up and start fighting and killing each other. Unfortunately, due to how one-dimensional the characters are and how dull their mission is, that build-up affects the overall pacing of the movie. The dialogue is also stilted, and none of their conversations are interesting, which creates a further lack of patience when the fights promised by the title will start. When we do eventually see the titular creatures, they are impressively done. Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr., who were the visual effects supervisors on Alien 3, were brought on board to work on this movie, and they, along with the lead supervisor, John Bruno, did a great job of bringing them to life and came up with a lot of neat designs. The mother alien, who the predators forced to constantly spit out eggs, is particularly remarkable, and there was an attempt to use as many puppets as possible. The idea of the predators using the aliens as basically hunting practice is a clever one, and the parts where they do go head-to-head do feature a few creative moments, although I wish the editing was not so fast-cutting. It's not as obnoxious as other movies, but I still would have liked a more clear view of the action. Unfortunately, we still have to keep cutting back to the humans who, like I said, I did not find remotely interesting. When they inevitably die, I just don't feel much of anything because they've not been properly developed or been given individual personalities. The closest thing to an emotional connection between them is when it tries to create a bond between the lead protagonist Lex and Weyland, but I never bought any of that. I do like the idea of Lex teaming up with the Predator to defeat the alien together, basically an enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. But curiously, while the first half of the movie is really slow, the second half suddenly switches on the fast forward button and goes by at top speed. When it got to the end credits, it felt like I only just started seeing the titled creatures fight. I wish the movie had gone to the chase quicker, so we can then spend more time on seeing the scuffle between the aliens and predators, and maybe even develop more of this unusual partnership between human and predator. Although I have to admit, in one of the last scenes when Lex and the predator are looking at each other, I did think to myself, are they gonna kiss? Because that predator sure seemed like he was doing the googly eyes at her. Jokes aside, I do want to give a shout out to Ian White, who played the Predator and does a really good job with the physical aspects of the role, along with conveying a lot through his hand movements. This was even his first film role, and he's carved out a solid career playing these towering characters. Something I always assumed was that Alien vs. Predator was set in the future, but the filmmakers actually set it in the present day. Setting it in 2004 is not something that adds much to the movie, but it's not a distracting element either. But it also meant they had to figure out a way to make sure the events here did not contradict the other Alien movies. The other thing I long assumed about the movie is that this shot from the trailer with the several aliens on the pyramid was part of the main plot. In actuality, that's just a flashback showing a battle that happened centuries prior, and I do wonder what the entire film would have been like if it was about the first hunt between the predators and aliens. But as for the movie we did end up getting, while there are some ideas here that could have been explored and expanded upon in an intriguing way, I found the execution left a lot to be desired, and that's mainly because of the human characters. In the best action movies, they get you to care about the lead characters, and that creates the needed thrill when guns start shooting and punches are thrown. James Cameron did that brilliantly in Aliens, but even looking at this film on its own terms, it largely underwhelms outside of the creature effects. I think one of the main issues is this was a B-movie premise, and Paul W. S. Anderson should have embraced that more rather than trying to follow in Scott and Cameron's footsteps. Anyway, what do you think of Alien vs. Predator? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for the request, Andrew.